right, guys, welcome back to Dad and Then What? Today we are gonna talk about a very interesting subject.
But we bounce right back. We grow, we learn, we laugh on the track. Dad and then what? Yeah, we got your back. Every day's a mission.
Sir, we're talking about traditions, and should we pass them down or maybe start something new, especially with our kids?
Level up, bring the dad wave up. Then what? The podcast.
I got a little confession to make. I didn't make the blood samples for this episode, but I don't know about you.
To be honest, me neither, but it's under process. So hopefully before the episode 14, we are actually having some data on this one.
Let's say we make a promise. Before episode 14, we will have revealed and been taking our blood samples.
Yes.
Let's dive into traditions, passing them down or starting afresh.
So to start this conversation, for me, the traditions have been always going around like certain holidays and festives during the year, especially the Christmas, birthdays, etc. And I think I've had very nice experiences regarding those. It has given me some sense of the traditions that our family has been having like before me, and probably about something that I should maybe pass on to my kids as well. And I think especially the Christmas is one of the biggest holidays and traditions that I definitely want to pass on for my kids as well. What about your experiences regarding these things?
Well, it's kind of a hard subject to talk about without talking about another thing. And I would say, to add to your story, up to a certain age, I was very tradition bound, very tradition happy, and like looking forward, like kids do, to certain marked days, Christmas, birthday, Easter, whatever. But I would like to ask you a question. How does a tradition become set in stone for a child? Do you know that?
That's actually a very good question. Actually, I'm not 100% sure, but do you have some sort of idea?
I would say children internalize by believing.
That's very well said.
So that is kind of, I do what my family does.
Yes.
Which is the creation of like a tradition. But it has many, I would say, headlines to it. Repetition, emotional weight, consistency of the parents, co-creation, which mean how much do you decorate, how much do you do out of the event.
Yes.
Storytelling around it. What, like Christmas always have the Santa and Easter have the Easter bunny and so forth. Then we have the whole social proof. Timing, when in the childhood is this introduced, and the stability around it. And last but absolutely not least, symbolic elements.
Those are very good cornerstones, I would say, when thinking about creating these traditions and passing them down for our kids. And now that I think about it, I cannot remember some other traditions from my own childhood, especially when I was losing my first teeth, and we were talking about this tooth fairy taking them and putting money under your pillow, so to say, and that was very much relying on the belief that the actual tooth fairy comes up, takes the tooth, and puts something under your pillow
Exactly.
on the change, and that was very nice experience when I was a kid. But of course, when I was growing up and I started to think about that, what was the thing behind it, and I realized that okay, the tooth fairy.
What age did you like come to terms with the tooth fairy? Probably wasn't the tooth fairy you have imagined.
I think I was around 5 or 6 years old, so I got to enjoy it for fairly long, so to say. But when I started to investigate about these things, and I realized that this might be something that my parents have
some sort of interference
Yes,
with.
yes. So then I became very suspicious about it, and that opened up another rabbit hole for the other things as well, so to say.
Exactly. And I think it has so much to do, especially with the repetition, first of all.
Yes.
And when do you start to implement these kind of routines and patterns? And secondly, how much social proof do you get? Do your friends have the same beliefs?
Yes.
And do like the consistency of your parents or the adult who is doing this, is that like in line with your beliefs? Because if, like you said, you reach a certain age, you find out that I remember, especially with the tooth fairy, I found out that it was not the tooth fairy who came with money, so I could kind of maybe make a little more impact on the wishes that what was under my pillow. And I remember I got these VH tapes with Tintin
Oh,
all of a sudden, because
yes.
I have been really wishing for them for my mom. And that was like amazing, even though that I knew that it probably wasn't the tooth fairy with wings and this lovely princess who were coming flying in with a little wand and
Exactly.
steal my tooth. But it was still amazing. And the same with the Christmas, whole the Christmas December tradition with the gifts every Sunday.
Yeah.
We had this. We were putting this ode up for the elf and the, what do you call it? Yeah, in Danish we call it nisse,
Yeah.
but
Like
it
Santa
was
Claus.
like his helpers, you know.
Yeah, like the small elves.
Small elves, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like, even though that the tradition broke a little for me, I had a younger sister who was really fond of this tradition, so I kind of found believe in keeping it up for her sake. And I would be lying if I wasn't saying that I still believed in the bottom of my gut a little bit
Yeah.
that this was real, you know, this was still like kind of my, and I think I was at that time even 10, 11 years old, something like that.
Exactly. That even though that you start to question about that if this imaginary person is there or no, you still think about like there gotta be something magical behind all this at least.
Exactly. And I think when you become to correlate it a little with being a dad, all of a sudden where you know like kind of what you believe is up and down,
Yeah.
is like you realize that I am the one creating and making these tradition in the way I want them.
Absolutely.
And that give you a certain element of power that is so impactful on your kids that you can make it, as I would say, pink and beautiful as your parent tried to make it because they had a story to correlate with, but you
Yeah.
can turn it or twist it into somewhat more realistic, that even when they find out, it's not going to be, because many times when I found out personally, it was like a shock or like a,
It felt like a betrayal
yeah,
almost.
exactly. It was like a freaking betrayal, you know. And it was like, these betrayals, I would like, as we talked about earlier, I want to have a transparent, honest relationship with my kids,
Yeah.
as possible, because there's of course certain things about life and the world we live in today that is not prepared to be revealed for a kid in certain ages. But you can still prepare them a little bit and still make it magical and still make it story related. Where I hope when they find out, they'll be like, okay, that correlated a little more with reality than what I had experienced.
Absolutely. So it does not necessarily need to wrap around some crazy stories, so to say, but when it comes to the being together at these moments and creating a routine and something nice to wait for, it's much more impactful and useful for the kids later on.
Exactly. I mean, a good belief that, or belief system that I have unintentionally created for my kids is holidays.
Yeah.
Because we have holiday every weekend.
Yes.
And that has been like easy from the beginning and with no further thought on the future, but has ended up in that we are actually having holiday every weekend, which is awesome. Of course, we also have normal holidays, and they are aware about their special times like Christmas holiday, summer holiday, where they are longer periods away from school or kindergarten. I would say on a daily basis, they are asking me like, "Dad, when is the next holiday?"
Yeah.
And they're just referring to the weekend.
But that's super nice because that's something for them that they're definitely waiting and looking
Absolutely.
forwards to. So you have done very good job like creating a tradition already in this sense.
You can say it like that, but if you want to look with a little more, I would say, skeptical glasses on, you
Yeah.
could also say that they actually just try to figure out when is the next time I can be with you 100%.
Absolutely, and that's very important thing to think about because of course we have our jobs to think about, maybe our hobbies and everything else. So that is always some time away from them, and this comes to the dad guilt
Agreed. Yes.
once again that we really need to schedule things and think about like prioritize it, like what is important for us, what we need to do and when, and make sure that our kids also know that what is going to happen and when, most
Agreed.
likely.
Agreed. And that's also back to the talk about like being able to homeschool
Yeah,
and have the time and the money financial situation to actually be able to like implement them in your everyday, even though like if it was this podcast we were making or if it was some other job,
yeah,
that you could be able to school them in the mornings, have playtime in the afternoons, still find time for your work and
exactly.
still be with them in the evening time. So you kind of have the total package where you wanted it and with the time management you wanted it.
Exactly, exactly. And to to go back to the topic about these like certain mark days, holidays, etc. I would like to say that now that we are dads and we're actually creating these traditions and habits for our kids, of course we're the ones at the moment who are able to create the possibility to actually create stories, etc., around them. And at the moment, we're the ones who have the possibility to take them away as well. So, for example, if we get too caught up in everything else and with the uh, how would I say, the normal days, that we actually forget about like create something to look forward to from the eyes of the kids, that might have some effects as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think like these mark days, as I remember them, is also helping you feel, first of all, important
Of course.
in a world that's so ever changing in a pace that we not even are able to follow. Our parents wasn't able to follow. And probably our kids will experience as twice or four times as fast as we are experiencing.
Could be, definitely.
With where the world is going with technology, AI, and all these very interesting and scary scenarios. But birthdays, Christmas has absolutely been unavoidable.
Yes.
Also because of the relatives, you know, they are like really fond of making a big thing out of the day. I brought in some traditions we had from Denmark, where we having a morning dinner very early.
Yeah.
You've been wake up and there's presents and there's breakfast, giving the presents out, eating the breakfast, and it's a whole thing. Rather than when you get older, it's more like you want to invite some close friends and near relatives out on a dinner.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the importance of the gifts and the whole excitement about your birthday is also, I would say, socialized, depressed in a way where it's go down the older you get.
Yes.
And unfortunately, after my opinion, also is kind of putting a shadow over getting older as a negative thing
Mm.
and not a positive thing.
Yeah.
And that's also something that every parent, every adult who is getting older has to kind of deal with in some kind of way. And of course, we have certain physical signs as the, what do you call it, over the age of being like 40, 45 to being a little bit older,
Yeah, like middle age,
middle
etc.
age, something like that, where people sometimes have a crash,
Yeah,
in the sense of
like a
feeling,
crisis.
yeah, like the midlife crisis,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
And I think that is totally normal, because you suddenly hit a age where you realize that this is the amount of time I probably have back.
exactly.
This is the amount of things that I didn't do, and this is the amount of things that I did do.
Yeah, yeah,
And many times we are so socialized creatures, we are so comfortable creatures, as like humans and humankind, that we kind of end up in these wheels where we are most comfortable rather than where we develop ourselves the most.
that's very well said. And of course, like when we hit these certain age points, I think we become more conscious about how that our time in here is very limited at the end of the day, and we of course try to make the most out of it. And it depends very much on the person, but it can make you more optimistic and think about like, okay, now I can focus on these things and do more. And on the other side, you can start to think like, oh my god, I have used so much time doing not doing the things that I wanted to.
Exactly. And I think one important thing about traditions today in the modern age
Yeah.
of 2025 would also be to really elaborate and make a big deal out of it to your kids, to actually tell them the background story of the tradition.
Mm.
Because many people that I know has been upholding these traditions without knowing where the tradition is coming from, why it started.
That's kind of weird.
Both and above, because in the age we're living in, everything has to be convenient. Everything has to be fast.
Yeah,
Everything has to
easy,
be
fast.
exactly. And it's easy to say that Christmas is the party of the gifts. It's the party of the family coming together.
Yeah.
But why? I have no idea. It's just convenient and easy, and it's so commercialized these days that you just know that there's cheap tickets, there is cheap Christmas gifts, there's sales, there is all these things that you just have to kind of take in, and it goes so fast. And then we are in the January, then we are in the Easter, then we are in the summer holidays, then we are in the, and
Exactly.
like, so I kind of understand from my own perspective that things are going so fast by, and time have never in my life. That's another thing, a little bit off the topic, but time have never flied as it does at the moment.
It certainly does.
Totally crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Days are going by like a blink, and weeks and years, and it's like, what happened?
Exactly. Like especially like when something big happens or when you are very caught up something that you're very interested in, it seems like that the years just go in the blink of an eye.
And I mean, a funny thing about our topic is also like different traditions correlated with religion, and of course also traditions from older times. And both you and me have this situation where we're coming from totally different frames and totally different religion and traditions. The traditions uphold here by my wife and her family
Yeah.
is like they're Buddhist, like yours.
Yes.
Some of them I totally correlate with compared to logic, which is making sense. We were going to this beautiful thing where you release fish,
Yeah.
crabs. At this event, you also can, on the shell of the crab, write some like dates, names, or good wishes, and then you release it, which I kind of catch the idea on was beautiful quite quick.
Yeah.
We went there. We were standing in the baking hot sun of 32 degrees heat, which was no problem, of course, because this was not for me. This was for them, and they were excited. And the kind of truck came with the fish, and everybody was lining up. And when we came there, I would say 20%, if not 30% of the fish were dead.
Oh.
Exactly. And I was like, this beautiful thing in my head, and that can also correlate a little bit with my perfect vision of it, maybe.
Might be.
But it was like it died a little bit, to be honest, in that moment. But still, if you look at the kids, they don't really they look at what your reaction is.
Exactly. They are more keen on the parents' reaction, more to the storytelling behind the
Exactly.
tradition itself.
And that's why I think that your own traditions and how perfect or unperfect they were will kind of be able to fuck it up if you were holding too tight to them.
Yes.
But if you just, like we talked about earlier, creating your own traditions and making them work for your kids, it doesn't matter if it's good or bad compared to your situation when you were a kid. So in that matter, you can have a really bad relationships to Christmas. You can have a really bad relationship to birthdays or Easter or whatever
Yeah.
it is. But if you choose to create a positive outcome for your kids with this relation, it will be totally different for them.
Exactly. That's very true. And when we are thinking about birthdays, for example, I have a very good example about this because for me, always the birthday has included some sort of appraisal towards me, towards the birthday boy,
Yeah.
so to say. And it has included the family getting together, getting some presents, the cake, and spending time together. For example, for some of the people I know, they didn't have that type of situation at all. It was just a normal day on the side of the other days. And that was very sad because they didn't feel the same sort of excitement and happiness
You were so
about it.
disappointed.
Yeah, it was very
Yeah.
disappointing because, of course, they could see like other people celebrating birthdays around them in very different way, and then were thinking that why I cannot get the same thing. So this is definitely one of the things as a parents that we can work on and make sure that our kids are definitely experiencing in a good way.
I have two things that I want to say to that, because I was home with the middle one last year in Christmas to Denmark and celebrating Christmas and New Year.
Yeah.
And that was amazing to see my family, and they saw him for the first time. And, he's 4 years old, 3.5 at that time. And he didn't give a fuck, to be honest, about all the Christmas charade,
Yeah.
He was totally fond of seeing his cousins, and we went to like this amusement park in Copenhagen, Tivoli.
Yeah.
And we went around the fireworks, firecrackers. He was totally amazed about, but all the traditions, like all the Christmas tree thing, the presents. Of course, he was totally amazed and overwhelmed because everybody in the family
Of
would
course.
spoil with gifts and all this charade. But he didn't mind the tradition at all.
Okay.
Like the thing you do to decorate, the thing you do with the confetti and the candy you are making and all this, he didn't mind at all.
Yeah.
Because he's not used to it from here in the same way. I mean, we have a Christmas tree in the December, and
Yeah, but cultural wise, it's very different.
Totally different.
Yeah.
The second thing is that I think also when it comes to your kids and what you want to create for them, another important tradition is, as I experienced, what do you want to deliver to them of values from your family tree or from yourself?
Yes.
And of course, also the other way around, what don't you want to deliver to them? And I had an experience personally that I wasn't ready to be asked that question when I became a dad, because I didn't even know my own why, and I didn't even know my own values.
Yeah. So of course, then it's very hard to start to think about stuff like
Totally.
that.
and it wasn't before I started thinking about it, I was aware about these things.
Yes.
So that made a huge impact on me, finding out, first of all, who am I? What is my direction? What do I want to actually give to them? And I think that is also, if not more important, than absolutely important area to cover as a dad. That if I don't even know the values, or I'm taking the values from my parents to give to them, first of all, why am I doing that if I not have my own? And second of all, why don't I have my own? And let me find it.
Exactly.
And then begin to focusing on, what is my last name worth? What is my last name stand for? And what do I want them to carry on from my last name?
Exactly. Exactly. So when we're thinking about these things, that if we if we are keeping a tradition that we don't know the story behind it or the reasoning why we are doing it, maybe it's better to, better to not pass that on.
At least get ourselves updated in such a way that we figure out, is this kind of ridiculous to me now?
Yeah,
Or is this making sense? Because again, a tradition for a kid is bound on so many different things than it is for us now.
exactly. And it's very nice that, even though it has changed along the way during the years, I think, like, for example, to your family, it still might be a big thing, even though it doesn't feel like so big thing for
Absolutely.
yourself.
And I must admit, like when I was 13, 14,
Yeah.
I was still lying awake all night up to my birthday because I was wishing for that Sean Paul CD, like,
Yeah.
or whatever it could be. And that was amazing. So definitely don't take it away just because maybe it was wrong to me to say that is ridiculous to you, then take it away from them. Not at all. But evaluate the way you are presenting and representing this mark day,
Yes.
and then do it in a way that correlates with you and make that important to them.
Exactly. Or maybe even thinking about on the side of what it means to the people very close to you. For example, the family.
Exactly. Because
Yeah.
I also think that anyhow, if that's some people mean that is a bit old school, but I still think that is the dad's absolute role to create the family culture.
I think so. I
and
think so
and
too.
and and that includes the values, it includes the direction we're having, the why of the family, and also including taking very good care of your woman, taking very good care of your partner and your kids in such a way that everybody can feel the love, the warmth, the direction, without having to go ask, I would almost say, but just like we talked about earlier, just have to look. Or you bring them to the gym, you bring them to the work, you bring them to the eating places, you bring them to the friends houses, or the communities where you don't have to hide anything.
Exactly. So I think we are supposed to be like a compass for the
Yes,
family regarding showing the way,
exactly.
what we should do, what kind of values should we bring up, etc. And to bring like a clear example what we don't want to be. I think you have seen the movie The Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yes.
You know the main character, Jack Sparrow.
Oh, absolutely.
And he has the compass, which never works. It never shows the direction to the north. It's all over the places. And of course, we don't want to be that type of compass that we are
Agreed.
constantly trying to ask advice and guidance which way to go, because then we are not creating anything authentic.
Agreed.
We're creating a fabricated way, so to say,
Yeah.
regarding values, traditions, and everything else. So
What is much more important, regardless of these mark days and upholding these mark days, is to making the small routines in the everyday.
yeah,
Like secret handshakes. It could be the special bedtime routine. It could be the Friday night pizza night with movie, or whatever it could be.
exactly. A meal together during the day. It can be such a small thing, but it has so big effect later
Exactly.
on.
Exactly.
And for us, for example, especially now that we have very limited time from Monday to Friday because we need to focus on the work, hobbies, etc., that during the weekends we take some time off from the phones and everything else and just sit down together and talk about how is everyone doing. We're enjoying a meal together, and so we are able to be actually present in the moment.
That's a really funny. Thing to say, because I have noticed that I'm really aware about when my kids approach me. We talked about this before. I'm putting my phone down instantly.
Yes.
I'm looking at them. I'm trying to be aware, present, and all these things. And I have noticed, not to hang my wife out in any way, but she's also busy with work. She also have a lot of stuff, and she's doing quite the opposite. She's
Mm.
forgetting to put her phone down. She's, not even taking the phone down and saying, I'm on the phone. I need a minute. I will be back to you when I kind of finish. But I can also see it on them when they have screen time. They will ignore me deliberately.
Yeah.
And it's like so many people, I'm sure, have frustration with this problem, that they are going into the living room quickly saying, hey, now it's TV time off, or turn off the PlayStation or Xbox or whatever, and nothing happens.
Yeah. And even if you try to push it, you can see the clear annoyance in their face.
Absolutely. And I think there's two sides of it. One is, what do you do yourself?
Of course.
Absolutely, like role modeling and be the
Showing the example.
Exactly, the absolute example. The second thing is that kids have a way their brain works, that they need to shut what they're doing down.
Yeah.
And that takes time. And sometimes it's like 30 seconds, sometimes it's like 1.5, 2 minutes. But the most important thing in this situation, and the best advice I can give for any parents that's struggling with exactly this problem, when I say something, they don't listen.
Yeah.
Is to get their attention first and get their accept on what's going to happen. And then give them some time, at least 2 minutes.
And I think that's the most important part of it.
See what happens. Try it next time. If you're in this situation and your kids is not listening, you get their attention, get their eye contact, get the message out there and say, this is what I want you to do. And you do it now. And of course, if 2 minutes pass, nothing happened, you pick it up again. You say, is it you or is it me who got to turn it off? Because then they have the time to actually digest what's happening, what you said, and they are prepared for, now we're just trying to push it.
Yeah.
Or I'm actually going to turn it off. But I mean, in the bigger picture of traditions and like passing things on, I think we can agree the small things, like why our values as families, as men, as parents, has to be, first of all, correlated. Find them yourself, and then try to put them in these everyday routines. And then if we are looking at the bigger picture of mark days, birthdays, Christmas, holidays, and Easter and such forward, look into the stories about
Yes.
what's behind it. Does it correlate with your own values?
Exactly. What
If
is
it
the
doesn't,
reasoning?
exactly. Correct them if they doesn't.
Yes.
Kids are comfortable with routines, with patterns, and that's the most important. Make it about your kids, not about yourself or your own memories about traditions, good or bad.
Absolutely. And I think that when we're thinking about the traditions and habits around them, I think for the kids especially, it's more about the connection and not so much the activities
Agreed.
necessarily.
I keep reminding myself of this, guys, absolutely every time and every day. But we got a new chance to make our old and new unique versions of traditions.
Exactly.
And
that's the beautiful part.
That's the beautiful and most important part. So, yes, your grandma or your grandma did it in this way. And if you have a recipe that is so good that you can't let go of, please, by all means, do it. But it shouldn't be held up by traditions that they try to hold up because you probably don't even know where it's coming from.
Exactly.
Try to check that as the first thing. And I'm not saying that there isn't traditions out there worth upholding from several years ago, several hundred years ago. Absolutely, there probably is. But I'm just saying that if you stand in a situation with your kids, in a situation where you have different cultures or different perspectives, make it about them, not about you.
Exactly. And like you said, even though if the great grandma had a great recipe for the pasta sauce and you don't want to let it go, you can always keep that and respect the roots regarding that. But as you said, if we don't know the story, the reasoning, or the good things necessarily behind it, we can perhaps let it go and create something new to replace it.
Totally agreed.
So that would be maybe their practical tip also to give on this one.
If you have any funny stories like you probably will have from family traditions, gone wrong or gone good,
Yes.
anything you have implemented yourself where you're like, wow, this worked amazingly, please don't hesitate and write us the story. We will be happy to receive it and happy to bring it on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'm looking forward our listeners' comments and stories because maybe who knows, maybe we might end up creating some new traditions
Ourselves.
because of them.
Absolutely. Guys, we have a lot of funny stuff ahead of us. We have the video material we were talking about. We are still testing it out, and don't worry, it's going to be really great. Not that me and Daniel are the most handsome guys in the room, but I'm sure you're going to survive. Other than that, we have the next episode. It's going to be episode 12.
We're going to be touching base with a little bit more challenging thing to talk about, especially with the kids. And I'm sure we will have very interesting conversation regarding that. So to say, we're going to be talking about death and danger with our kids.
We are back in a week's time.
Yes, so remember to stay open-minded and tune in, especially for the upcoming episodes.
A little add-on is now we're talking about these traditions and situations where we talk about deeper subjects with our kids. Me and Daniel have been visiting a new side of Dad and Then What. We have been talking about creating these stories for you guys, how to talk about your kids with these deep subjects, and maybe even starting creating some stories for your kids. This is something we are quite excited about. It's really new, and we would love to have your input on any ideas or new modern times ways of approaching this subject.
Absolutely, because especially when we're thinking about this podcast, the main point is to give help from a dad to another one and maybe even some advices or maybe even receive them, but we still somehow feel obligated to do something for the kids as well. Thank you guys once again and have a good night.
Have a good night.
Dad, and then what? Yeah, we got your back. Every day's a mission, but we stay in the fight. From diapers to doubts to the late night life. Real men talk, we don't keep it in sight. Tune in, level up, bring the dad wave on. What? The podcast.